Welcome to Data versus Commerce, where we explore the messy middle between database and doorstep. I'm Matt Johnson.
And I'm Floyd Blaikie. Let's dig in. Okay, Matt, we're back at it. And so weird that we're both wearing the exact same outfit that we wore last time. Did we plan this? Do you have other shirts? Because
No,
I don't. This is my only shirt,
I'm
actually.
I'm just pretty much like Steve Jobs. Make it simple. I don't need to think too hard. So
Perfect. That comment was not for people who are listening on Spotify or Apple. This is only for the video viewers. Thank you. So just forget I said that if you're not watching us. Okay, so last episode mainly was just me complaining about my dishwasher, if we're being frank. So if you're a consumer like me, you're not a licensed dishwasher technician like me, and you're trying to find the right part, which is a difficult process. You got to look at some really small numbers and do a lot of Googling. You think you found the wrong one, or the right one rather. It shows up and it's actually the wrong one. Very frustrating. Dishwasher is still broken. And to really put the cherry on top, they promised me overnight shipping. I paid extra and it came 3 days later. So what is the problem here? We talked about data last time, but you were a little coy about the fact that the shipping problem was something else entirely. You want to talk about what that might be?
yeah, let's go. We talked about pointing fingers. I love this. I love pointing fingers. Yes, it's very possible that this is a back end invisible broken pipe issue, an integration issue, essentially. Systems have to talk to each other to make this whole miracle of digital commerce work, right? So we often talk about, that product data, I think that's the most obvious thing, right? It's like, that's not describing what I needed. That was false advertising. But what we often don't think about is all of the different systems that have to work to create a frictionless customer experience. And so what does that look like, right? So in your situation, you were sold a bill of goods that this product could ship overnight and be delivered. Okay.
Yep.
So that's what the e-commerce system told you. But the reality was inside of the customer or the distributor's ERP or their OMS, that wasn't the truth. So inside there, they have the ability to identify warehouse location and inventory levels, and sometimes, in fact, often, that information never actually connects to the front end customer experience. So if it is by default, let's just say they have a default mode that says, this product, it's in stock. So that's what they know. They know it's in stock. So they say, if it's in stock, it ships overnight. But what they may not know, and what certainly you didn't know, is that product was actually in stock across the country. It was in a different warehouse. And that made a huge difference in how quickly you were able to get it. So location, distribution center location, that's a data point that lives inside of a back-end system, right? The number of products that are on the shelf, where that shelf resides, that all plays a big role in how quickly those physical products actually get to where they need to go. So
we're not talking about like one or two systems either, and certainly not simple ones. I've worked with 2 different ERPs. I've worked with some other software organizations, and now with an organization, of course, that brings all those together and makes them work. These are complicated, and the data passing from one to another isn't always in the same shape, if that makes sense, right? It's not like a smooth, when you say plumbing, it's not like the water is the same shape the whole way through, right? I don't know, it comes out as steam and you want it as ice. My metaphor is quickly falling apart, but what I'm getting at. A lot of complexity in these platforms and how they talk to each other. So that's why I didn't get my dishwasher part overnight, so I could be disappointed faster. I had to wait 3 days to be disappointed. So, okay, whose fault is that? Who can I yell at?
Well, again, we could complain about the logistics carrier. We could complain about the
Mhm.
warehouse. Oh, those guys were just out on a smoke break for 2 days or whatever. Or maybe the warehouse burned down and what there at the end of the day, it's almost always an issue with systems, multiple systems,
Mhm.
because you don't become a national retailer distributor unless you have built on a lot of complexity. Like, and what
Mhm.
that could look like is maybe you've gone through 30 acquisitions in the last 3 years.
Right.
And every time you make an acquisition, that comes with new distribution centers, right? New capabilities. Now you're able to reach your customers faster with more products and new lines that you didn't have before. That's brilliant. Like, great growth strategy. And companies have become incredibly successful in that approach. But what we often forget is that there's significant tech debt that comes along with that. So, for example, there is an electrical distributor that I have worked with in the past who was
Mhm.
growing very quickly through acquisition. So that they were buying up these different sort of mom and pop, or regional specific distributors, and they think of them as distribution centers, right? So the mom and pop, that was their whole business. They served this region of Northwest Florida or whatever. But
Right.
to that larger distributor who purchased that company, that's one distribution center that I can use to get products to those customers quickly. What's the problem with this? The problem is that I have now inherited a ERP system and a back end inventory system with different data than the data that I use in this business and the data that I use over here in sort of the master data. So now I have to somehow take all of this disparate data from these different systems and get them to talk to one front end customer experience. It's very difficult. And, who knows? In your situation, you might have had a back end inventory system that was not even plugged into the e-commerce system. So you were told one day, but in reality, if it was integrated correctly, that information would have been accurate.
That seems like a nightmare. It's like a bit of a nightmare, right? Because you think like you're acquiring an organization that's such a great success indicator. You're growing, you're expanding your business footprint, and then you inherit all this other stuff that's got to plug in. Like my background, of course, is more marketing. And I remember working with an organization, and I was coming in and helping them connect some of their information systems, not necessarily related to their supply chain, and they had grown a lot by acquisition. And they had, and I don't want to give any free promo, but let's be honest, Salesforce doesn't need any help. They had 17 Salesforce instances. Connecting all of those and making them all work together, because for some reason they absolutely needed to keep them all. Huge nightmare. So, like, what does that look like on the ground when all of a sudden you're inheriting all of these other systems and they've got to work together? Or, some middle-aged lady in Canada is going to get mad about her dishwasher. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah, I do know. It's a mess. I mean, we'll just be
It's
honest.
a
I mean,
mess.
it is what keeps a lot of people that wear pocket protectors in business. Uh,
I know.
you
I
have
forgot
to be.
mine.
Yeah, you have to be. I ran e-commerce agency in past life, and we had nerds and we had ninjas, right? And the nerds were the people who really understood system architecture, and
Yeah.
right, and these were the coders and the architects who built these complex commerce systems. And you'd like to think that it'd be so simple, right? Okay, I have an ERP over here, I have a
Mhm.
PIM here, I have an e-commerce system here, and OMS and these things, data just flows simply through it. It's not like that at all.
Uh-huh.
It is a twisted ball of yarn, is what it is. And the reason because if I buy a new business, I can't just shut down that software that runs that branch, right?
Right.
Or
Okay.
that distribution center, right? Business would crawl to a halt, right? It wouldn't be working. So why? What so you wonder, why do they have all these systems? It doesn't make sense. Well,
Yeah.
because that particular area of the business depends on it.
Right.
And
It's load bearing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you remove it, the thing crumbles. So what's the answer, right?
What
And
is the answer, Matt? I need you to tell me. My dishwasher still doesn't work. Come on.
well, the answer is simple, but it's not easy, right? The
Yep.
simple answer, everything has to connect. Okay, all the systems have to connect. Data
Mhm.
needs to flow between systems and get to where it needs to go. But the hard part of that is you have to think strategically about your system architecture. You need to look at it, pull it all up on a one giant flow chart, and figure out where things are broken, where things are
Mhm.
being patched together with like crusty middleware that you've had for 10 years. And there's we use the term brittle integrations, meaning that
Yep.
they're likely hard coded and dependent on some person in IT to maintain them. And then of course there's systems that don't even connect, right? So it starts by mapping it out like a true master architect and defining where things need to go and how will they connect, right? And all the different data points and how the APIs will work together. And then ensuring that there's a plan to maintain them because
Mhm.
systems do change. And ERPs in particular are famous for this, right? You make one little change in an ERP and it has to be custom built. That little custom built thing that helped this process over here run smoothly now just broke the integration.
Right. You change one field type and all of a sudden everything falls to the ground.
Yeah, so somebody has to govern it. Somebody needs to architect it, and then continuously monitor it and improve it.
Right. But wait, who? When you say someone should has to map it out, architect it, figure it out, maintain it, like are we talking about the ERP people, the OMS people? Are we talking about, in-house people with pocket protectors? Like whose job is this to make sure it's all working together?
Yeah, well, there has to be somebody in the organization that has the macro view. There has to
Ah,
be somebody who understands at a highest level how everything is operating, what systems are connected to what, right? So it starts there, and that person is really in charge of defining the overall structure of the commerce system. But here's the problem, right? And the
mhm.
problem is that, and there's lots of problems, but I think this is one of the significant ones, is that you have one vendor who set up this platform over here and they built this integration. And then over here, you have another like third party contractor who did this one. And then you had these three over here that were done in house by my own team or whatever. So
Right.
you have a bunch of different types of integrations. They're not all done the same way, they're not all maintained the same way. I've got middleware that I have to log in and use that. So the problem is like, how do I create consistency in my system integrations? Right? I need this integration layer. I need to be able to control my integrations without breaking one piece of the system. And so, I mean, this really comes down to having a defined process. Again, it goes back to the
Mhm.
the old discipline, right? Like, why do people get frustrated in business? Like, if you talk to, and it can be any business, any department. Why do people get frustrated? It's because usually things are not well defined and there's not a clear
Mhm.
process. There's not a clear outcome. It's kind of like organized chaos most of the time. And that's never been truer than when it comes to IT and complex organizations and complex commerce systems.
Right. I'm sure everyone in IT is nodding along right now, but I think anyone at a complex organization could could say that. So you're layering all of this, disorganization and not knowing who owns what on top of more chaos. That seems like a hard hole to crawl out of. How are we fixing this?
Yeah, so I think one of the most exciting things that has come up recently over the last couple of years is like, and of course, everybody knows that there's this fear around, developers and architects losing their jobs to AI. But what AI is allowing us to do is to connect systems faster and easier than ever before. And it's
Hmm.
really exciting because this is the kind of stuff with the amount of data points and the amount of complexity that would take months and months to build. I can remember back, this was only like, let's say 2018. I remember working on a distributor's commerce system, and we had to build two ERP integrations, two completely different ERPs. It took us 12 months to complete this
Dang.
and launch the new, yes, and launch the new site. And that's not uncommon. It's not like my team sucked at it. It's just that's what it takes, right?
Yeah.
It can take months and months. Now, what we're seeing is the ability for AI to read APIs and connect data so fast that no human developer can do it. And it's really changing the way that we're able to tackle this giant elephant, this giant ball of yarn that historically has just been like too big and too nasty to wrap our minds around. So AI
Right.
integration work is not only phenomenal for making those connections, but also for maintaining them because now we can use agents to tell us proactively when something changes and prevent something going down, one of our core systems, our OMS or our ERP or our e-commerce system. And that's really exciting because a human being in an office maintaining and managing all these integrations, that's just way too much. And it's part of the reason why, your dishwasher part never made it on time. And
Right.
companies are going to be able to solve this with companies, frankly, like Pivotree, who are leading the way when it comes to developing
Mm.
AI integration framework and processes. So it's a very
Well, let
exciting.
me let me play the devil's advocate for a second, which is frankly we're subverting expectations here because the girl never plays the devil's advocate. It's always the dude. So you're welcome. Just furthering the equality cause here. We talked about how all of this data isn't necessarily good and all of these systems are not necessarily maintained correctly. Isn't throwing AI at the problem just going to make it worse instead of making it better?
Well, it certainly could, right? And because we make
Hmm.
an assumption, and I've seen this, I have seen this in the last couple of years. I've seen companies implement AI tools thinking that I am now going to create a better customer experience because the AI is going to handle the really hard part of somehow magically translating data and putting that data where it needs to go. It doesn't quite work like that because those tools, those platforms, right? These applications, these agents, they only work as well as the context and the data that they're given,
Right.
and they will hallucinate. Like I've seen order management systems hallucinate. There's a lot of cool things that are out there. I saw an order management platform that will allow a customer, a contractor, or whatever to upload a photo. And because the data that it's pulling from to draw the context and say, oh, that's this part, it messed it up because
I
the
need
data
that.
wasn't right. So it looks like it's really confidently recommending a part and sending it to the shopping cart for them to check out, but it's wrong. And that actually creates a worse customer experience.
Oh
So
man.
it
Yep.
backfires sometimes, Floyd,
It
because the data isn't quite what it needs to be.
I feel like we could probably do a whole separate episode on the AI stuff we're digging into now, and maybe we should, because honestly, Matt, my dishwasher ain't fixing itself. Can you come over and just real quick? Do you know
No,
anybody? I need some
no,
help.
I have no clue.
Okay.
No clue.
Okay, we'll put it out to the podcast audience. If anyone wants, I'll give you a guest spot. You can be the host. I don't care. I just want a new dishwasher. Anyway, before I give away the entire media property, I guess we should wrap it up.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Data versus Commerce. New episodes drop weekly.
So if you're responsible for any part of how products get from a database to a doorstep, subscribe now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen.